Hey, good morning, everyone. It's the NFC, NFC Coaches Breakfast Interviews live stream, and I'm headed in there. It started about 10 minutes ago, so we're going to head in, and I'm headed first to Dan Quinn's table first, and they're going to make the rounds and go from there. But I have a special announcement to make for everybody. And the announcement is that we've topped 1 million watch time views. 1 million. So I want to thank everybody for their participation. And here we go. So there we go.
Fresh and ready to play on game day, and I'm a big believer in that.
What's the latest on Daryl Smith? What's going on at Strong Side?
Well, again, I don't want to speak for a guy that's I have had conversations with him, and Daryl's played for a long time. And what Daryl told me is when he first started out, he never thought he'd play as long as he did. He's had a great run with 3 different teams, in Jacksonville and until Ravens, and finishing with us. He certainly served a really strong role for us last year. Not only is he playing the same linebacker, but his mentoring, not just Quinn, not just Monte Vaughn. He was a strong influence. He put Monte Vaughn. I think the way Daryl carried himself, I think his presence will be felt in our building.
What's the next thing that Jameis has to do?
I think the next thing Jameis has to do is just understand that ball is the most important thing, and that every play does not have to be a great play. Jameis, he's been really good at turning bad plays into good plays, but when we look at all of our tape, and we probably spend more time on our bad plays than our good plays, just all plays aren't going to be home runs, and Jameis, I think, has to continue. He's making progress. I think he just has to continue to learn when it's time to cut our losses and when it's time to go to the next play, and sometimes going to the next play is punt.
When you get a good quarterback in, whether it's a high pick, you can get a good guy like Jameis who's a little bit lower down, what are the first 2 or 3 things you've got to do to assess whether they can do it and then get them on the field?
Well, hopefully to assess whether they can do it, that's what all your process leading up to that point to get him on your team. Hopefully done a lot of that, but so teaching him the system, communicating with him, and then seeing how he takes what you're teaching him and applies it to the field. Can he do it? Can he go right from the meeting to the field, or is it going to go meeting to the field? Okay, he still doesn't have it. We got to go back, review it, do it again, or can we move on to the next step?
Do scouts make a bigger deal about kids coming from the spread to the NFL than it is for coaches when you get your hands on them?
I don't think scouts do. I think scouts. I'm not a scout, but scouts are looking for talent. They're just looking for football players. I think coaches have a tendency, offensive coaches especially, about guys going from the spread. And when we're talking about guys going from the spread, we're not just talking about skill position players. That affects linemen as well, because some of the linemen that are in spread systems, they're just not asked to do. Doesn't mean they can't do it. They're just not asked to do all the things an NFL lineman is asked to do.
Hey, Coach, you were a head coach down the road at some school that doesn't win very much anymore the last time, but what's the biggest difference from college to being a head NFL?
College NFL, well, roster size, obvious answer. You got 110, 15 guys in college, and you're responsible for those guys 24 hours a day. Where in the pros, you got a much smaller roster, so you can't practice as much. You can't grind those guys into the ground. You don't get them as much. So just your use of your time with them, and then figuring out how you're going to practice with them, and then get them to the season healthy.
Hey, Coach, has Jameis progressed to the point where you're comfortable enough with him just willfully changing a play that you sent in because he saw something that perhaps wasn't there?
Sure, and he's already done that. People ask that all the time. Jameis does a lot at the line of scrimmage anyway. He always has had that freedom, and he's very good at that. That's not a problem.
Could you be in this draft? There's a number of good running backs. With Doug's situation, the fact that he's going to be 28, 30 years old, he's been injured throughout life. Would you be remiss not to address that position in the draft? I know you like our guys, and you have a young guy, Peyton Barber, but doesn't it seem, am I wrong in thinking that that's a position you should probably go in thinking you probably need to look at that more?
Well, you're right when you say it is a deep position. So in the draft, and I think it depends on Jason's where does need meet value?
Right.
Where does need meet value? So we're picking in 19, assuming there's no movement. You're at 19, and whatever our next pick is, 30, whatever, 50, whatever our pick is. But there's also, let's just take running backs out of it, but at every position, there's guys at every position that are like, we call them game wreckers, right? There's guys that are game wreckers, and then there's other guys that are guys that you're going to say, yeah, that's going to be a nice player, going to make your team. So, based on what our needs are, and then who's available, and every team that's picking in, I don't know. Depends on the depth of the draft. Every team's looking for a game record with that first pick, or whatever position he plays. But I would think of the 32 teams here, everybody's saying this is a good running back draft. Maybe we ought
Dirk, speaking of running backs, big news for Bucs fans this morning was all these pictures that circulated that Jameis is working out with Adrian Peterson. They're all excited about that. For you as a coach, are you just intrigued to bring in a guy like Peterson to work out, just to see him, given that he's on the street like that, and he gets along with your quarterback?
I've seen Adrian Peterson many times. The guy's one of the best running backs to ever play. So I'm anxious to talk to Jameis and ask him about how his workouts went. And that caught me off guard. I didn't know that. I'll be honest with you. The first thing I thought when I saw that was Jameis is such an amazing guy. I mean, the guy is everywhere. He's working with Tim Grover, who's Michael Jordan and those Kobe Bryant's trainer. He goes to Houston and gets the receivers together to throw with them. When Jameis is in town, he's calling up local college guys to go over and throw at Skyway Park. I'm just thankful every day that we got Jameis Winston on our team, because the one guy I know that will be ready to roll on April 17th is Jameis Winston.
Talk about the indoor practice facility. It's a go. It's a given. Probably won't be ready for training camp, but what could it mean for the organization?
I think in my coaching career, I go Arizona State to Jacksonville to Atlanta to Tampa. And one thing that's become very apparent, I've heard other coaches that coach in the South and the Southeast talk about it, is over the course of a season, the heat does take a toll on your players. So we did what we could last year to start trying to minimize that by doing our walkthroughs under the tent. So what the indoor does is, one, you have limited practice days anyway. It eliminates you losing days to bad weather. And we've been fortunate in Tampa. I think we only lost 1 or 2 days last year where we had a practice that we had to cancel or move because of inclement weather. But there's other times. When I was in Jacksonville, there'd be nights in training camp. We were supposed to practice at 4 o'clock or 7 o'clock under the lights. It'd be lightning storm, and we'd be waiting in the locker room until midnight to see if you were going to practice. Well, that screws you up for the next day because you guys are more tired. So it takes the elements out, and then also it can help you manage the heat. Like we'll definitely be doing our walkthroughs indoors every single day, and it gives you a sterile environment when you're bringing guys in to work guys out. It gives you a turf field. I mean, we play some of our games on turf. It gives you a turf field. It gives you options, and I think it's something that I push for. I thank the Glazer family for making it happen, and I know our players will be very excited.
Dirk, have you seen the plans for it? Does it look like a typical indoor practice facility?
I have seen it, and I should just probably keep my mouth shut. Let me just say, I'm excited about it.
Nice big media section.
I think they have the Ira Kaufman room in there.
Dirk, can you talk a little bit about the improvement that Jameson made from year one to year two, and what you're looking for to take that next step for year three?
Sure. Well, I mean, just like a coach or a player, I think first off, year one to year two, knowing what to expect. Knowing the NFL scheduling process, the way the schedule flows, how the year flows as opposed to college, and then knowing how much he needs to prepare every week, and the volume that he's going to be placed under, and just being more aware that he's touching the ball every play, and that's the most important thing, and taking care of the football. And I think he just needs to keep building on that. Jameis is a very quick learner, and we said earlier, I think Jameis just needs to continue to understand that he's the guy we're counting on to not only make plays to help us win, but to also not commit the type of plays that help you lose.
You guys are a hard knocks team. What will America see? What will they see from your team?
From our team?
Yeah, like characters.
We do have characters, and I don't know what they'll see, because again, when I have had experience with Hard Knocks, we did it in Atlanta, and their cameras are everywhere, and they pick what they show. So some things that I might have thought, man, that's going to look funny on Hard Knocks, didn't even show up on the program, and that's something that they're pros at that. They know what they're doing, but if we are selected for Hard Knocks, it's just part of it. I mean, the NFL is the greatest game in the world, and I have no fear of our guys. There's always going to be guys that maybe react a little bit different with the cameras on them, and some of that stuff that can get a little corny. But our mission is the same. Our mission is still figure out how to win our division and try to get in the tournament.
But can't that be a good thing for your team, to let the nation know who they are?
I do think it could be good. I think when a team has not been one of the main faces of the league for a while, I think it can contribute to that. But the number one thing that contributes to that is winning football games.
Dirk, Sean Renfree, I believe you and he were sort of stars of that Hard Knocks episode a little bit, if I remember correctly. And now he's here. What can you say about him, and maybe how that experience affected him?
Shoot, I don't even think they ever showed me and Sean Renfree on Hard Knocks, did they?
Yeah.
Did it? Oh, well, I didn't. That shows you how much I remember. Well, first of all, we're going to have a nice competition as it's stacked up right now for the backup quarterback between Ryan Griffin and Sean Renfree. And the truth of that whole story is just when I came here, and I was telling Jason that there was two quarterbacks, if they ever became available, that we'd want to get them in. At that time, we were going to draft Jameis, and we had Mike Lennon, but we knew we were going to be losing Mike. And the two quarterbacks that we always had our eye on that were, at that time, number 3s in the league were those two guys. And now we have them both. And, I think in both of those guys' case, they haven't had their chance. They haven't had their opportunity yet to prove when the money's on the line if they can do it. It's one thing to go through off-season program, go through preseason, play in preseason games, but you never really know how a guy's going to do until he's doing it in a real NFL game. Some guys have had their chance and proven they can do it. Other guys proven they can't do it. These guys haven't had a chance to prove that yet.
Or is there anything you can do maybe in year two to sort of relinquish some administrative duties that you experienced in year one and get more hands-on with play calling and with your players?
After today, I'm turning over all media to other people. No longer do media. It's going to save me 10 hours a week.
What do you think about that?
All the time. Not the media part.
I mean, all the problems
Good
come to your
clarification.
desk, and then
There's not that many problems. No, as far as the administrative, how can we streamline where I want to be in the meeting rooms with the players and with the coaches as much as I can. And I can assure you that process is, I think about it a lot, and there's plans in the works right now to do that.
Hey, Coach, you talk about how the offense progressed under the offensive coordinator. First part of the season, roughly, a lot of dropbacks, but then toward the middle of the season, perhaps during game plan, a lot of movement.
Yeah.
More of that this year?
Well, that's a good observation by you, and really what the deal with that is just that Jameis was doing really, really well on the move, and better than we thought. I mean, we had a small movement package in early in the year. We didn't even really use it that much, and then we kind of started using it a little bit more, and our numbers, the analytics told us that hey, we're doing pretty good on this. Maybe we should do it more, and we had a lot of success in that area, and that's something where when Jameis was outside the pocket and had multiple receivers to throw to, even to run it at times, we did well. So I would say that we will continue to build that part of our offense.
You talked a little bit about Jameis being aggressive, but having learned to peel backwards on that. I've heard coaches say over the years, you'd rather have a guy who's aggressive and go the other way. But what's the tipping point that finally make it where they get it?
Yeah, that's a multi-million-dollar question. That's a multi-million-dollar question, because I don't think there's one coach in the room that would say they don't want their quarterback to be aggressive. You've got to be aggressive.
You can't teach aggression.
I don't know. Can you teach? Teach aggression. I don't know about that. But I do know that turnovers are what get you beat faster than anything else. So where is the tipping point? When we're looking at our big play tape and our bad play tape, Jameis made a lot of big plays that had nothing to do with our offense or the play call. It's Jameis making a play outside the structure of the offense. So you can't have it both ways, where you're going, hey, Jameis, great job. That was a horrible play call, and you turned it into an explosive. And then over here, hey, Jason, terrible job. Hey, Jameis, terrible job. You turned a terrible play call into a turnover. Okay, some of that's play calling. I have to do better in that area if I'm the play caller. But okay, the top quarterbacks in this league: Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees in our own division, Matt Ryan. I think that's something with experience. I mean, think how much experience those guys have over Jameis. 16 years in some cases. I just think that's something that's acquired over time.
Dirk, where's the improvement, the next step for Brennan Hargreaves? What do you feel he has to do next to go and make that leap?
That's a good question. I think Vernon, talking about Jameis being aggressive, I think Vernon needs to be more aggressive. I think Vernon, talk about baptism under fire. He was right off the bat. He's going against Julio Jones week one. He's going against excellent players every week. I think Vernon gained confidence as the season went on, but Vernon is a ball hawker. I mean, he's got the capability to create turnovers like Brent Grimes does on the other side. And I think sometimes Vernon was too content to just cover his guy. They threw it to him. He was right there, make the tackle. Instead of Vernon, scoot up and make that play. And he was making those plays in practice. And I just think the next step for him is, okay, year one, I don't always know what to expect. Year two, I know what to expect now. You got to take the ball away more.
How do you think a guy like Deshaun Jackson, having Deshaun Jackson at practice, can help him?
talked about those different players getting job.
Yeah.
What's that job like for a head coach?
You know, I'm not going to say it's the same, but there are definitely things that when you go through an experience for the second time, you have a better knowledge of it. I think the hard part for a player is going into the NFL, they don't know what that season could look like. Well, as a assistant coach, you have a vision of what a structure looks like, so that part is different. But like the things that you're not prepared for as a head coach, you don't have any of the media, so that part as a coordinator, you don't do a lot of the draft process, the combine process, the structure of your meetings, the way you organize a training camp, the way you organize your season, how do you manage the roster, like those kind of things. When you go back, it's almost like, and I still do this now, after every sequence, I write up an after action. How could this segment have gone better? How could this, in the combine, what would we like to do different? It's almost like an audit. So after my first year, we changed where our hotel was. We changed some things about how we traveled. The only based on that was some feedback from the players too. So going through each phase of our year, like if you started training camp, in-season stuff, post-season stuff, combine prep, scouting prep, OTAs, like how can those functions be better? We got better from year 2 to year 1 in a lot of those areas based on feedback from the players and the coaches, and then my own experience too.
So there were fewer of those entries, I guess, in year 2 that now that you're going into year 3, or
I would say there was, I don't know if there was fewer entries, but there was new ones. And say, okay, the change we made was worthwhile. Can we make any other smaller adjustments to that? And so that's what I'm still going through now as we're planning ahead. I made a couple small tweaks to our in-season schedule. That doesn't get implemented for a few months, but it's something that I discuss now with the staff. So I have the staff do a 360 on me and the program every off-season, from travel, team, meetings, messaging, training staff, weight room staff, video, equipment, and see if I can get feedback from them.
Hey, Coach, can you talk about the pairing of Dontari Poe and Grady Jackson? Sounds like a powerful defensive tackle combination.
Grady and Dontari both are inside, both are real active inside players, and when you play a 4-man front, you want to make sure that you can affect the quarterback in the pass game, with your rush. When you're able to, drop and play 4 underneath, or however you want to play your coverages, without having to, devote an extra player to it, allows you the flexibility to do things. We're really pumped about where Grady Jarrett's going, and we think the movement, the quickness that he has, and we're equally as pumped about Dontari, being on board to see all the things that he can bring. So. Both of them have unique stuff, and that's our job as coaches to find what unique things a player does have, and then how do we feature them. So I've always been somebody to say what the guy can do as opposed to what he can't do, and then if you find the things that he can do and try and feature him in that way, it's usually best for both sides.
Dan, what did you see from Koetter and tape that you guys really were attracted to? And then, is there anything you think you can unlock as a pass rusher?
Anything I can
unlock in him?
Sure. Yeah, it's a good question. I went back through 3 years of tape on him, and I wanted to find styles of play that we would feature him in our system. He's played terrifically as a nose tackle in a 34 front during his time in Kansas City. They've often used him at different spots along the line. So I knew the football intelligence they had. That showed all the different alignments they had. And then I just evaluated him on the plays where he was really getting upfield, and I tried to intercut that into the Atlanta clips to show how he would play in our system. So I'm excited about where he's headed. As far as a pass rusher goes, it's working in coordination with the other players as well. He's been equipped, there's been some good pass rushers coming through Kansas City, especially on the outside, with Justin and Tomba and some of the guys. So we're excited about what he's going to bring to our team.
Was there any concern about the herniated disc issue, just some of the back issues?
Yeah, with all the players, one of the big pieces when you get a guy here is going through a physical and getting the medical piece to it. So when the medical side, was comfortable on their end, that allowed us to, go full steam ahead.
Yeah, the player tracking data you guys got from games last year, I think last year was the first year that the NFL gave teams. Did that prove helpful at all to you guys in preparation or
You know,
any part?
we didn't use it to that extent. We use it with our own club at practice. So the in-game one, we just didn't quite use a lot. It gave you some standards of what a player does during a game. So we had a better understanding of their workload by position for a game.
Okay.
So some averages. So at a practice, we may use to try to get to that percentage of a certain workload to get a guy ready.
So you maybe adjusted this practice based on the game?
Yes, or it allowed us to know, okay, if his normal workload is this, and we want to work to 2/3 on a Wednesday and maybe a third on a Thursday, how do we get to that balance? So it gave us some good general parameters, but at the end of the day, it still comes down to like that communication piece.
Yeah.
You know, like, how are you doing?
Right.
And I think we never can lose sight of that, where a player doesn't, rely on just the numbers to, determine how he's feeling.
What about the things that apparently is available, like how fast a player runs a 9-route, or how much separation a DB has from a receiver?
Yeah, the separation part is hard, but you can find that the speed that a player does work to, and how quickly that player can get to top speed. So those ones are for sure. They're interesting to watch.
But what do you do with it?
Nothing. It's sometimes it validates, like, Taylor Gabriel's really fast. Like, you guys knew that. But it does show what a player is capable of in terms of their speed. So when you see him hitting that type of speed in game, and you see that player hitting that type of speed in practice, you have a pretty good sense of how hard you can go.
Hey, Coach, a new stadium, one would think that the team would be able to play extremely well, adrenaline would be up, but it's also a new environment for them. How do you mitigate that?
In terms of the newness of it?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I don't know if you can underestimate the excitement of that too. Think of all of us when we move into new places. Hey, check out this. Look how big the closet is. There's a new locker room that we're going into. There's a new field. But like, once the game goes, like, that part's consistent. Where we play, how we do it, the field surfaces. We're going to know all those things. What we're so excited about is to see how much our fans light it up and how loud it can become in there. So those are the things that are the unknowns that are exciting unknowns. As far as the players go, like Arthur and the group that's putting this stadium together, when you guys see it, it's pretty remarkable.
I did a drive-by.
Did you?
It was magnificent.
Yeah, the Georgia Dome was big.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't look big right now.
No, it doesn't. It's like a pimple.
Yeah, and so we're pretty pumped to, unveil it, so to speak, with the team, with the city, the connection that the team and the city have. So we're excited to kind of open it together, I would say, between the fans and the team, and knowing that it belongs to all of Atlanta. Like, that's our spot, that's our stadium, and so we're pretty pumped for it.
Dan, your neighbor Ron over here spent all of last offseason talking about psychology and Super Bowl hangovers and stuff like that. In the position you guys are in, how much time are you going to spend this offseason dealing with the psychology of what happened to you as opposed to the X and O football stuff?
The biggest topic for us is our division, and knowing how strong the NFC South is, going and competing for the Super Bowl would be a topic that's pretty far away for us, just like it was last year. And our focus was how much we can go battle for the NFC South. To win the NFC South, you got to be a damn good team. And between Carolina and Tampa and New Orleans and ourselves, those are 4 good teams, good quarterbacks, good toughness, got their acts together. So we're not going to put anything in front of our division. If you play well enough to come out of the division, you're ready to go compete for a championship.
Are you worried that some of your guys may never be able to put that out of their mind?
Not necessarily, because of the connection that this team has. Everybody deals with, a loss at the end of the season differently. But honestly, like, you also have to recognize, like, hey man, we're competitors. This is what we do, and we're going to go battle for it just as hard as we can again this year. But we're not going to go look 19 games down the road when we haven't even gone through our off-season program yet. So we'll take the big things small. We're going to just focus on our off-season program. Then we get to training camp. Like we're not going to even, we don't go too far down. Like we're much more of a team that's in the present moment as opposed to 2, 3, 4, 5 months down. And then when we get into the season, the same thing. Like it is about our division.
What do you think is going to happen the first time you're in a game? I mean, and it may be in September, it may be in October. You've got a lead, and somebody else scores and cuts into it a little bit. Is there? I mean, it seems natural that there'd be a little flashback or oh God, is this going to happen again?
Like there's going to be tons of those, and all the experiences that we have from the past, you totally draw on those. But to say we're going to live our life in the rearview mirror, you know, like hell no. There's so much fun that goes into playing this game that you battle and you learn from it. So, like the lessons that we learned from that game, I'm more in line to say like I hope those help us over the next 25 years. How we can do it better. Doesn't mean you're going to win every game. Doesn't mean you're going to win every overtime game. But it does mean you're equipped to go battle, adjust, make the decision you make, and then you let it rip. When you compete in our sport at the highest level, it's as fun as you could possibly imagine. So during the next time we have a lead and somebody comes back, I will not be so worried about what happened in the past that you miss all the stuff that goes on in that game and that moment what you're competing for. So that's just how I kind of choose to live it, where I'm not going to spend my career looking in the rearview mirror.
What does it take? I mean, to just single Matt out as one player, but if you're a quarterback, and what does it take to sort of flush that and stay in the moment constantly?
It's really having a process that you go through to get ready. And as any player or coach or performer, like there's a routine that you go through to get ready to play. And so for him, he's nailed what that process feels like. He has a real routine all the way through the week to get ready to play. So when you get to like Sunday, you're into this state of like, man, I can't wait for this game. I can't wait for this opportunity. So you got to put the work in to get to that state. You can't BS yourself. Put half of it in, I'll be ready. So for him, it's his time right now to get ready. And there's a few things that he's trying to work on to get better. And it might be one or two things in his game, and he's working like crazy right now to get that part of his game in order. So when he gets back to OTAs, he's already ready to crank it up.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned
I get you right next.
Do you benefit from having a younger roster in terms of kind of getting over that psychological hurdle, because a lot of these guys don't have a tremendous amount of NFL experience?
It's just something that I'm excited about a younger roster because of where I think we can go to. So I think more in those terms. In terms of, like I said, I recognize your questions about hangovers and that, but honestly, it's just not how we're equipped to talk as a team. We're so far into how we do things together. So that's where our focus lies. Yes.
I know that we've talked a little bit about the post-Super Bowl stuff, but I'm just curious, you personally, how many times did you replay that game, and at what point are you over it now?
The term I've used, I'm over it, I'm not past it, and that's okay. I think that fuel allows you to, get your mind correct of how you want to approach things. So I watched it a lot, and I've replayed it in my head a lot. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not. I think what I learned after going through it with the lessons I learned carried me over the next 20 years as a head coach. And those were the things that I take from it. So I can't wait to get back with the players. When we begin 2017, it's not just where we left off. We've got to grind, we've got to go put it in. And the connection that our team has for one another, the love they have for one another, they can't wait to get rolling either. So I recognize the question, and it's one of those ones that never go, but it's also, man, competing for a championship, I cannot begin to tell you how much fun it is. And the battle for it, all that goes into it, it's honestly why we do what we do. So sometimes the consequences are awesome, because you played well, the prep was on point, and you did it right. Sometimes the consequences when you don't execute it quite like you want are difficult. So there's good consequences and bad ones, in a lot of situations. So we had the bad ones this one, but there's lessons to be learned, we gained from it. And then we're going to go battle again. And we're not looking back in the rearview mirror all year, I can promise you that. We got too many cool things ahead for us.
Dan, it became obvious pretty early, really pretty
early in January that you guys would lose Kyle. Did you know that it was going to be Sarkisian all the way? Was that always the name in your head? Or?
It was. I knew early how good Kyle was, so Sark actually came to some OTA practices and training camp. So he was down watching our team, and he sat in some meetings. So it was in the back of my head that he would definitely be one of the candidates I would talk to if Kyle had the option to take his risk and go do it. That he was definitely somebody I would want to talk to. So it just worked out where the alignment could be in place for somebody that had a philosophy fit similar to Kyle's. Not necessarily the same exact call, same things, but understood the principles that how we wanted to play.
How much of the offense is actually good? Is it wholesale changes? Is it minuscule?
I would say the philosophy of how we play really isn't going to change. So it's way easier for Sark to come in and implement all the things that does for help him with the language and the formations and how we call certain things. So there's definitely some things to change, and that's anytime you go into a new system, new situation. There was things when I went to Seattle that we had done a little bit differently. As a play caller, you need to be able to have recall of how things are done, but it may not look differently because it'll feel smaller for the players to go that way, the change.
Hey, Coach, coming back to that 3rd and 1 in the Super Bowl, you made the comment that to distill what you said had to do with you thought you had the right matchup at the time. But I go back to Coach Walsh, and Coach Walsh would get up a big lead, and regardless of the matchup, would simply run, but from different formations and combinations. Does what occurred in the Super Bowl make you rethink the logic of using matchup perspective all the time?
No, I think just like game management. You think of those things all the time, but honestly, yeah, just I'm not going back down the what if game. I've done it too many times, and I've learned some lessons that I think. But I also know, like, a big part of the reason we were able to play for the championship was because of the aggressiveness that we played. So it's easy afterward to say that.
Right. Hindsight's 20/20.
Yes.
Right.
So I'm not going to go down that road and say yes, it should have been viewed differently.
Right. Coach, what kind of player Titans get in air for the news?
Wow. Number one, I think it's all the things that don't show up on the stat sheet. It's his competitiveness, it's his toughness. He's widely regarded as one of the best teammates. So he's going to be somebody that will unconditionally support guys, but they've added toughness to their team. And already, Mike there, they've got a tough team. Now they've added that with Eric. He's a very good special teams player. That's really, where his role lies. He can play personal protector on punt. He can play, an inside position on kickoff, and he's returned in both kickoff and punt. So that kind of versatility, where you're adept enough to be a returner, tough enough to play in the middle of your kickoff team, like that's a pretty rare dude.
He pretty capable of busting one still?
Yeah. He's and then the third part is not only is he capable of busting one, he's actually with the ball in terms of decision making. So they got him a good one. I said, someday, hopefully years from now, he's going to make a hell of a coach as well.
Dan, Coach Sarkisian has a testimony there. He's been through a lot. How do you think that kind of thing resonates with coaches in the profession? That it's high stress and you want to avoid a lot of those temptations, and maybe he don't.
I think it's also for the players too. Having that type of honest, open communication. Like all of us, whether it's players or coaches, may have family members or people that they love or are close with have dealt with an addiction problem. So knowing that you can talk about it openly, I think is a big thing. Number one is his recovery, how strong he is, how well that's gone, allowed us to make him our top candidate when we're looking for the position. So I couldn't be more pumped with him being on board.
A couple of key guys you have. Just curious if you know how they're doing in terms of coming back, like Julio and True. How are those guys?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. So there's about 4 guys that had some off-season work or happened in season. So Julio's doing good. He had surgery, on his foot, and that part is coming along really well. The strengthening of his toe and the foot, like most surgery, the first part is the healing, and then comes the strengthening. So he's starting to get into the strengthening phase now. Trufant is coming along great. We won't have him practice during OTAs, but by the time we get to training camp, he'll be ready to go and battle. Adrian Claiborne also had bicep surgery. He's doing well. And then Derek Shelby had an Achilles injury the 5th week of the year, something along that line. And he looks great physically. When I see him, he's actually changed his body. He went the approach of, I can't wait to get better. So he's battling. He looks different as a guy walking around. You can see, the size, the strength. He looks great. So all of them are in different phases of their rehab, but all we're anticipating being fully ready, to go for the season.
You said you don't play the what if game.
No, I do, but there's a lot of
When you were watching the game, when you're rewatching that, and Julio makes that catch, do you ever play the should have game? Like maybe if we run it 3 times? Or,
sure.
Yeah, you do?
Yeah, 100%. So that's same game.
Yeah. Do you wish you had maybe overruled or stepped in that situation?
Yeah, I think when you go down that road of the hindsight stuff, it's so easy to say right now. And of course I want the outcome to be different. But most plays that we had a play designed to our best player, they usually end up pretty good. And it's a fine line between gutsy call and poor call. And I totally, trusted Kyle, in terms of the calls. There was an intent about where we were trying to go with the football. And then we actually had another play that we don't talk about where we had a conversion on the next play where we had a penalty on. So those were bad consequences for us, that sequence of plays. But we had a bunch of good ones too. And when you go battle for a championship, not every play goes right. We had over 150 plays in the game, and you can go back through all of them, and we do. But past that, man, it's like I can't keep looking back. And I've learned my lessons. You gain from those scars, and then you say, how do you get better? And that's kind of where the what-if game changed for me to say, what if I improve so much that's going to help me the next 20 years as a head coach?
Will you next time intervene? Will you?
Yeah, there was times I did this year.
Yeah.
So it won't. It's not like the next time I will, like I haven't before. That's already taken place. So I'll always speak up when I think is the right thing to do for our team. It doesn't have anything to do with, would I like the consequences to be different? 100%.
Hey, Coach, on the matter of Coach Sarkisian, he had a great hybrid read option package. The quarterback didn't necessarily run. There was a lot of the action. Did you guys discuss incorporating any of that?
Our way that we do the run pass action is not the zone read game, it's our keeper game.
Right.
So that's a part of our game that we like because we run the wide zone offensive play. So the stretch action by the quarterback, the play action. So the keeper game and the nakeds that go along with that, that's a big part of our offense. And it's the way we come off the ball, the style and attitude that we play. And I think offensively and defensively, that's what makes us unique. Everyone in this system has versions of 3 deep or wide zone. It's the attitude and style that we play that we want to be different.
What's this pass rush group in the draft? I don't know if it's too early to talk, but what do you think of some of these pass rushers?
Honestly, it was part of going to the combine. You really enjoy meeting the guys. Some I had seen on tape, and some I had not yet. So as we get through the season, your first piece is on free agency, and so you're going through because that happened right after the draft. So my first focus after the season was on some free agents, and some pass rushers in free agency were franchised or signed pretty early on. No big shocker there. And then at the combine, it's pretty cool to get a chance to meet these guys, find out what they're about, and see if they would be a good fit in your program. And so along with Thomas, he